How's it going, everybody? So I have now finished watching the second season, and I don't know how many people out there have actually finished watching it yet, but hopefully a fair amount will have watched it, and we'll be here to discuss a bit. So hold on a second. I want to just try to share this and try to get as many people in as possible. Okay. So there. All right. Oh, hey. Hello, Marissa. Okay, so I have one person. Okay, 4 people watching. All right. So let me try and share this on Twitter here. Who else do we have? Still just Marissa. Oh, hello. So, I guess we can talk. I can go ahead and talk while I'm doing this a little bit. So much interesting stuff. I honestly don't get to say this very much about sequels, but I think the sequel was better than the original in certain ways. I know that some people might say the original series was good, and it had a lot of charm and a lot of things like that really did make it good and kind of compelling. But at the same time, those aspects also made it more susceptible to the criticisms of that it was biased or an advocate piece, basically. So anyway, let me go ahead and do this real quick. Okay. Hello, Andrew. Oh, well, thank you for for that. You haven't finished episode 10 yet, but don't care about spoilers. Yeah, like I said, for most of us that have been, researching and all that sort of stuff, it wasn't necessarily that there were spoilers. The cool part about it is that we get to see these experiments. We get to see the representations of this stuff visually, and that's what makes this really super cool for me. This is, plus everybody gets to know what happened with Brendan. Now people that weren't following along but can sit down and binge watch a show this weekend will know what Brendan went through, what he encountered, what it was like, and how it ultimately, went, and people are going to, I think, feel strongly about that. So there's that, and then, like I said, all the experiments that we got to see, Zellner's experts, getting to see them talk about this evidence, just matter-of-factly, we get to see their facial expressions as they talk about this stuff, and, they all seem very genuine. So it's just, I think it's just absolutely a great second season. I'm over the moon about it. Ali Apperson, all the scientific testing just got real when it's not words on legalese. Absolutely, like I was just saying, it's just so cool to just have been able to see all this stuff on the screen. It's just absolutely phenomenal. Lori Bowes, yes, oh, absolutely. Yes, it has. It has been a great follow-up. I mean, there was so much interesting stuff there that we got to see. I mean, I particularly found when they were talking to Josh Radant, I found that all to be very, very interesting. The fact that there was like a back road that went right up to Steven's trailer from the quarry, that Josh Radant had used once to come up and talk to Steve. And so people knew that existed, and that would have been an easy way to bring the bones in because of where the officer or the guard, the officer that was parked there as a guard, would have been on the opposite side of the trailers and the garage and stuff. So somebody could have came right in there and easily done, and put whatever they wanted there, and they would have been pretty much just basically completely undetected because nobody, from the vantage point of where the cop/guard was, they wouldn't have been able to see it. So that was an interesting thing. So much interesting things, I mean, to be perfectly honest. But the thing with the bullet, all that bullet testing, what they found out when they were doing their test stuff, and they went out to the garage and were shooting through that wood and all that stuff, and that was all just extremely fascinating as well. See, Shweezy Hodgins, love your videos. Glad I found your YouTube. Oh, thank you very much. Lori Bowles, hi. This has been a great follow. Yes, of course. Yeah, it was very much was. Vanity Fair's article popped up on my Twitter, and they ripped the season apart, and I was shocked because it's brilliant. Yeah, how are you gonna argue with the hard evidence that's coming out? She's poking huge holes in the prosecution's case. I mean, some of them are like Mack truck size holes you could drive a Mack truck through. I mean, Vanity Fair may come to a different, opinion maybe in time. We'll see. But I mean, for me, how do you deny the science that she's putting out there right now? For me, it's hard to do. Andrew Evans, how about all the people who said KZ misrepresented her expert opinions in her briefs? It was nice to see exactly how they feel about the results of the test. Exactly. Getting to see the expressions on their faces as they talked about this evidence. That was huge for me. It was. And that's exactly what, Andrew's talking about right there. I got to see those looks on their faces as they talked about this evidence, and I got to see how strongly they felt about it, or passionately they felt about it, or just how earnestly they felt about it. Whatever it was, I was able to gauge that as I watched them talk about it, and I thought that was really awesome. So yeah, excellent point, Andrew. Sheezy Hodgins, in your opinion, who do you think is the real killer if you had to make an educated guess? Okay, my educated guess right now, the way I lean currently, is that the killer is this mysterious person who was harassing Teresa and calling her on her phone and harassing her. This is, to me, a person who knew Teresa or had contact with her and knew of her and had her phone number. Now, many people have theorized it was Ryan. Could be. Could very well be. Because you saw in MAM2 the case that she made. Ryan's still a suspect because Ryan isn't crossing himself off the list. Did anybody catch that? That was in there. Basically, Ryan is still a suspect because he's not crossing himself off the list. And the only reason why he wouldn't be coming in to cross himself off the list is because he feels that there's something to hide, and so he doesn't want to address. He just wants to steer clear of the situation. That's what it suggests. Because Josh Radant came in, boom, he's off the list. He's no longer a suspect for Zellner. And that's what she wants to do, is continue to cross people off, until she gets down to the nitty-gritty. So it's, it was interesting, but yeah, certainly it could have been Ryan that was calling her, but I think it maybe could have been also somebody we don't know. So I would love to know more about that, but we know nothing. I mean, in all my time of reviewing the investigation reports and all the various things in this case, I have never ever uncovered anything where they talk about pursuing this person who was harassing Teresa by phone. Other than I've heard somebody, I think I remember hearing Cratch try to claim that it was Steven once or something like that. Completely bogus and ridiculous. But, yeah, so. Let me see here. Uh-oh. When Kathleen Zellner is former amazing intelligence, yes, absolutely. She's very smart, very sharp, and very passionate, but very reserved with her passion, which is something I can respect. When Zellner said people don't realize how large the area is, was that how you felt when you were there? It's big. It's a large. Do you guys? I mean, in that video, when you see me walking from the car crusher, you guys, I'm assuming most of you who are here have seen my video. When I walked from the car crusher to where the RAV4 was, that's like, I was basically probably where the car crusher is. That's probably about halfway from where the entrance to Avery Salvage is over to the what I would call the western edge of the Avery property. So I basically, that time I spent walking over to where the RAV4 was, that was basically half the width of the Avery property. Now it's much longer than it is wide, and it stretches down. You know, I didn't go all the way that deep down to the what would be the northern edge of the Avery property. But yeah, it's a big place. It's a very large piece of land, and it's got a lot of brush and growth and things like that make it hard to look and see around everything really clearly. It's just, like a visual obstacles and that sort of stuff. So yeah, it was interesting. Property is massive. Yeah, it is. I still think the ex-roommate and ex-boyfriend, you're right. That's certainly, that's not crazy thought right there. Blodorn and Hillegas are highly suspicious. Absolutely. Just Navy, key stuff. Barrel number 2 searched again on the 12th. Right. Absolutely. Wiegert forging other detective's name. Yes, absolutely. Again, those are two other things. I actually hadn't realized that before. That when they found the bones, that they had actually gone back in 4 days later. I just figured Ertl and his team had found the bones or whatever when they had gone through it on the 8th. Because I've read those reports where they went through it, they bagged it up, processed or whatever. So I'm amazed that they were going back into that barrel 4 days later and somehow finding something. It's very odd to me. Very strange. So impressed with Zellner, absolutely. How did Ryan get the journal? Yep, absolutely. Sorry. But I've been saying that for a while now because he had that sheet that she had handwritten on. Okay? And she never had a chance to get back home to drop off her day planner at home. So how does Ryan have it? Indeed. Why is Ryan lying and saying that she filed an insurance claim on the front driver's side blinker, basically, parking light or whatever it is, blinker? And why is he lying and saying that she filed an insurance claim on that, got a lump sum from the insurance company, but just never fixed it, when the insurance company says that never happened? Now, as I've said before, I did have some people that believe Stephen Avery is guilty who were telling me, oh, well, yeah, it was just she filed it with another person's insurance. And that's the way they were trying to say it. And you know what? I had to listen to them, and being the person I am, I had to go, that's plausible. That is absolutely plausible. And I hated that. And I did. I hated that. But it was plausible. Thank God for Queso 2.0. Thank you very much, Calumet County, for reopening the Teresa Halbach investigation, because you blew that out of the water when you were asking the brother of the victim to go digging through all of his old computers, desperately looking for a picture of the RAV4 with the damage that you want to prove it had before October 31st. And it sounds like it even sounds to me like Mike sounds doubtful that he's going to be able to find anything. In fact, he says as much in the investigation reports that he doesn't even know if he's going to be able to find it. He's just hoping. So, if that's not bias, I don't know what is. Let's see here. Marissa, I was really shocked to see how inadequate Steven's defense was. I had thought that they did a good job, but KZ saying how inexpensive things could have been done and how few experts they could have had that might have made a difference. Right. Yeah, and there is something to that. I mean, I for the last couple months I've just been really mad that they hadn't brought in any experts really, or not very many. And certainly not a blood spatter expert. I mean, they really kind of... That was really a ball drop, in my opinion, not having a blood spatter expert in there to help them to put forth their narrative and how things might have really happened, to really shoot holes in the prosecution's case, to go along with their framing and planting defense. Yeah, it's unfortunate that didn't happen, and it all comes down to Steve also had limited funds. I mean, as we know, Jerry and Dean have said they were working for much less money an hour than they usually do. When it came by the end of it with Steven, that whatever money was left for them to pay themselves, that they were working for much less money an hour than they normally would. So you get the idea that the money ran somewhat short. So that's the situation that Steven was put in. That's where he was forced into, where he was forced to settle for that small amount, and that small amount didn't really do well enough to help him to defend himself, really, in my opinion. So I'm not willing to point the finger or guess who did it, but it's obvious many others were more likely than SA and BD. Absolutely. I mean, with the content on that computer, it really truly does throw suspicion on Bobby. Bobby needs to get vetted out, and the truth of the matter needs to be seen. That needs to happen. I feel the same way about this mysterious person who was harassing Teresa. It needs to be found out if it was Ryan, and if it wasn't Ryan, it needs to be found out who it was, and we need to know more about that. And of course we need to know more about Ryan, but you heard in the special that basically he's lawyered up and he's avoiding her like the plague. She's even gone to his house like twice, but he won't come to the door, or at least nobody answers and whatever. So they've tried to make contact with him. They want to try to get him to remove him from the suspect list. But as Zellner said, she thinks that he was part of moving the vehicle. She doesn't necessarily think he would make... It sounds like she doesn't necessarily think he was part of anything else. But whether she does or not, she thinks for sure that he was part of what happened with the RAV4, and so he's scared and won't be willing to talk to her. So that's probably a very good piece of rationalization, or very good piece of deductive reasoning, in my opinion. Okay, so Dave Vigatka, after hearing what the coroner said, how can anybody doubt my story? Absolutely, the coroner was very compelling, because it's just like I've been saying all along. She explains that when there's a dead body in Manitowoc, that she is the head law enforcement officer, even above the chief of the sheriff's department, or the head sheriff. She even outranks that person, when technically, by the letter of the law and the statutes that rule how a murder situation works when they have a dead body. And technically, by default, she's supposed to be the top law enforcement officer. And all those things. And yet, you see the way that they handled it and kept her away. And trying to use the excuse about the $6 million lawsuit being the reason why that she couldn't go there. Yet, every other, almost virtually every other Manitowoc officer is there. All the ones that are in the departments that have a conflict. I mean, if you can listen to that coroner tell that story and say that you are just absolutely convinced that Steven's guilty, I mean, well, good luck to you, I guess. But I just can't. She the way she explained it all right there, especially that little added tidbit that I didn't know from before about how she actually is the lead law enforcement officer when there is a dead body in Manitowoc. Yeah, that's just wow. So, Allie, as far as the day planner goes, I have always believed that it's the key to finding the killer. Step 1, figure out how he got his hands on it. No matter how you look at it, he's involved somehow. Absolutely, Ryan's got skin in this game. That's absolutely. How much skin that is, that's the question. Let me see here. Uh-oh, what happened? Never doubted you, always appreciated you. Oh, okay, yeah. So so Andrew's talking to Dave B there. I wish I could recall in case of which day they said they wanted to bring the barrels back to the property. That was on the 8th. That was on the 8th that Kratz was asking for one burn barrel 4, I believe it was, that had gone back to Avery Salvage. He asked for it to be brought back to Calumet County to go into long-term storage. Wish whoever did it would man up, have a coming to God moment, and just take responsibility. Yeah, that'd be nice, but it doesn't always work out in reality. But it would be nice. Then still the state would, yeah, well, the state might still be wanting to ignore that as well. You're right, probably. Scott seems so unsupportive and bored, and Bobby refusing to be on the show just seems odd to me. But I still lean towards Ryan, maybe with help from Bobby and Scott. Yeah, well, whatever the case may be, everybody's got their little pet theory right now, and that's fine. And like I said, I have my pet theory that this person harassing Teresa may be the key to all this. That's my personal theory. So, we all have our own little thoughts, so that's fine. But I accept everybody's, kind of theories and consider everybody's theories, because it's completely possible that my theory is not right. And so I like to be aware of, the things that other people think. And so that I have other avenues to consider when certain pieces of evidence pop up, or certain accounts pop up in the documents that make me think about things in a different light, or anyway, something along those lines. So yeah, definitely. Ali, something big that jumped out at me was the cuts on the bones. Yeah, that was something interesting that that was interesting. I also pictured them as being caused by a shovel, as they were mixed in the fire. I never imagined that they were from some sort of saw, right? Because they were proved that it looked like it was like a hacksaw used to cut through some of the bones. So that was an interesting tidbit of information there. What if the cops put the porn on the computer to blackmail Bobby? Well, I guess that's a possibility. I don't know if there's anything to suggest that, but I'm sure over time, if that's the case, it would most likely come out with Zellner's computer expert. I'm sure he's one of the best in the world. So if there's any proof of that to be found, I'm sure he'll find it. Where do you hear about her getting mysterious calls? Tom Pierce. Yeah, Tom Pierce, her the person who she had the shop with, who they kind of shared the shop, where she had her little photos by Teresa and Tom Pierce had his. He was actually a teacher of hers at college. He was a mentor of hers and stuff, and so they were close and everything. And it's an account of his where he remembers seeing her one time get a phone call from somebody, and he could just see how very disturbed she became about it. And when he asked her about it, she just kind of brushed him off or whatever, but he was very disturbed by how disturbed he saw her get over the phone call. At David Gaka, it's pretty hard to fake the timestamps, especially when you have forensic experts. Seems unlikely that they could have used it to go after Brendan as the psycho perv. Right. Well, that's true. And so, seems strange Hillegas has her diary, well, her day planner, writing on it that she must have put there that day. Right, she went missing and she didn't go home. How did he get it? Exactly. Ryan having that page of the day planner is a huge problem for him. That is a huge problem for him. Him having to explain how he has that is a huge problem for him, and it's probably another one of the reasons why he's hiding. I think Dave B is just trying to play the devil's advocate, which I feel is necessary for a healthy and productive discussion. Absolutely. Everybody's allowed to say what they want here, and possibly, make suggestions that maybe people haven't considered, and that sort of thing. So, no hating on in here. The coroner is basically saying those guys are in a powerful group. That the group controlled the entire crime scene in the trial. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. They were controlling that crime scene. They were very much. Had it right under their thumb, essentially. Shweezy Hodgin, it's amazing how positive Steven remains throughout the entire process. Yeah, it is. He does do pretty well at that. I'd let Zellner step up. Okay, all right. Well, to each their own. The coroner quit because she felt endangered. That was an interesting part, Dave. That was something that she said that I was just like, oh, really? She was feeling she didn't want to go out on calls at night anymore. Even with fellow officers and stuff, she felt unsafe. Yeah. That stuck with me too, Dave. That was disturbing. I was like, oh, really? Whoa. She quit because she didn't feel safe. And I was just like, wow, that was very, very powerful. As far as Dassey's confession, how can one more judge say that the confession is coerced even if the others don't? Isn't that reasonable doubt and shows that well, if you mean by with the en-banc review, no, it was the fact that 4 judges overruled the 3 judges, and it was just a numbers game, unfortunately. But if you add Judge Duffin in, it would be 4-4. But unfortunately, Judge Duffin doesn't reside at the 7th Circuit Court. Okay, yeah, hearing the coroner talk about her experiences and the fact that she kept notes was really impressive. Yeah, absolutely it was. To each their own. There used to be a site you could go to back in the day to see who blocked calls are coming from, and I remember I used it with Boost Mobile because I was always getting pranked. Wonder if that's possible. Could be. I wouldn't know that much about using those functions, but it sounds like you might. The SMS text message were mentioned in Queso at least 3 times, but why have we still not heard anything about them? Surely the phone company has them, and they should have been subpoenaed. Yeah, SMS messages. Which messages? I'm not entirely sure what you're referring to there, actually, but they should be subpoenaed, and I'm sure Zellner has subpoenaed anything like that in terms of phone records and messages and voicemails and like I said, records and all that. So, okay, phone texts, right? Okay, so yeah, like I said, as far as I'm concerned, yes, I'm pretty darn sure that Zellner has subpoenaed all of that now, and she has all of those things. Andy Wigg, it wasn't about the truth in the federal court. It was about precedent, right? Absolutely. AEDPA is the thing that got in Brendan's way. Hey, poet, don't even know it. AEDPA is the thing that got in Brendan's way. Stacy Seabrook, I think I got a new lyric for you. Anyways, so, but yeah, it was AEDPA that was the big thing with Brendan. So that's what got in the way. I don't know about you, but I haven't had trust in our judicial system for years. Pray you never end up in that system. I agree. At least not getting railroaded by certain sinister agents of it, certainly. But the fact 3 think it's coerced and the others don't. There is no consistency in the rulings from the different judges. I can't get that. Their opinions. Yeah. Well, did you hear the part when they were talking about when they were actually playing some of the oral arguments, and we hear Judge Can going, "So what? Like, so they did this because they needed a second killer? They do." And Laura's like, "Oh, like it throws her for a loop," and she's like, "Oh, what?" Kind of thing. And he's like, "Oh, so what? Why did they? So they did all this here and coerced this kid and everything because they needed a second killer? Because they needed 2 killers?" Like, he sounds like this, like, doddering old man who can't quite articulate himself very well anymore. That's what he sounds like. And Zellner makes the point that yeah, at that point, Laura Nyrider should have picked up the gauntlet at that point and said no. The reason why is because they wanted to seal the deal of the conviction against his uncle. And by getting him to say all of these things that they got him to say, that they were able to put that out in the press and all that stuff, and it helped them to convict his uncle. He was secondary, kind of thing. Yeah, if she would have got to argue that properly, or if Laura Nyrider had gone that way, it would have probably been interesting to see. But but yeah, I mean, Judge can, if just by asking that question tells me he doesn't understand the case. He didn't understand the case. He probably barely skimmed it. Because to ask that question of how Brendan was ending up in the position he was in means that he did not review the case very well. To sit there and say that like he doesn't understand what was going on, and he doesn't understand why they would have been going after Brendan, thinking that they would just want two killers arbitrarily. No. What an idiot, to be perfectly honest. So, yeah, yes, I know. That was, and you know what the worst part about that? That's Judge Sykes. The worst part about that is Judge Hamilton said, if we were to, he put out this hypothetical situation, if we were to grant habeas relief for Brendan, blah, 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 what advice would you have for law enforcement officers going into the future? So she, in good faith, just begins to answer Judge Hamilton's question, right? Of things that she thinks could be helpful and suggested to law enforcement officers as more proper ways to interrogate juveniles, particularly those of mental limited capacity. And so she begins to answer Judge Hamilton's question. And as she's doing that, Judge Sykes jumps down her throat and starts telling her how she's now trying to ask them to change law. And that blah, 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 and going on and on and on and interrupting Laura. And Laura's trying to go, that's not what I was saying. That's not what I wasn't, no, that I wasn't saying. No, I was trying to say. Laura's just trying to get a word in edgewise, but that woman is just like, oh, whoo, like, wow. Just like, whoa, man. I was just like, I couldn't believe it. But, yeah, I mean, it's like they lured Laura Nyrider into that trap because Judge Hamilton clearly asked for her opinion. And she was offering it, and then Judge Sykes acted like that opinion was Laura Nyrider saying this is what should happen. And I just thought that was really dirty pool. Yeah, he sounded like an idiot. The fact that this is a court's consistency of the rulings, yeah. I wanted to smack the judge who was constantly interrupting. I did, yeah, absolutely. He sounded like an idiot. Yes, he did. Or yes, yeah, absolutely. What about the judge that asked about the shells in the garage? The judge that asked about the shells in the garage. That would have to be Hamilton, I think. Yeah, that would have to have been Hamilton. Hamilton is the main guy. He was the one that was on the 3-judge panel who went against Brendan, and I think he was probably a big part of getting this on-bank review to happen too, because he just seemed very, very just intent on keeping Brendan locked up, in my opinion. He just, for whatever reason, as a judge, I don't think I should have been able to get that impression from him, but I did. Casey's the best. No shell casings in the garage in North Chicago. He can't understand it. Yeah, that was funny. That was actually pretty funny. Let's see. It's like he didn't even get the fact that Brendan had no idea what was going on. I know. I don't know what Judge Hamilton and the other judges are looking at, because you clearly see that almost every fact is fed to him. It's everything, and what wasn't fed to him was easily known from watching the news at the time. So yeah, it's just ridiculous confession in the extreme. Do you think the truck driver report to Colburn at the convenience store on the 3rd was factual or believable? I kind of do think that guy was probably telling the truth. And explains how Colburn might have been finding the RAV4. So, potentially. We'll have to see how things get argued out in court. That's the thing about this. We need the evidentiary hearing so that Zellner can come in and say, this is what I'm thinking happened, or whatever, basically, or make her arguments and stuff. And then the state can come back and go, well, we think that this is possible. And they can possibly offer evidence and go, this is what was going on here, or whatever. And then, so that we can actually find out. But right now what's happening, for whatever reasons, Judge Sukowicz was just, she was just shutting the whole thing down. And I thought so, but we heard it here in MAM too, that even Fallon himself was kind of shocked at Judge Sukowitz's decision. So I thought that was interesting. Yeah, it isn't great to know that the judges have a poor understanding of the case, right? I wish she would have said that they needed to destroy Stephen's alibi, so they turned to him into an accomplice because they could and they knew it. Right, absolutely, Allie. I also noticed, for whatever reason, that BD said she was shot outside, outside the garage, then moved it to inside of the garage, right? And the judges didn't care about that. There's a lot of things that the four majority judges just were completely ignoring. Very disturbing. And like I said, they used the control question after talking about how it takes unreasonable finding of fact and everything to under AEDPA to overturn. They end up taking an unreasonable fact that they obviously missed, because not only did they miss it, they turned around and used it in their own decision, in their in their own majority decision. They turned around and used that fact and attempted to say that it proved Brendan was resisting, when it proves exactly how Brendan was suggestible and malleable and willing to try to please the investigators, or at least was afraid to be in disagreement with them. That's what it proves. And the fact that they used that unreasonable fact to help bolster their own opinion and decision gives me a lot of concern, because it's just, why would they do that? They have to read that the same way I do and understand the English language and how it works and go, that's not what that says, right? So anyway, what would be helpful is to have a solicitor or yes, youth, especially ones that mentally limited or that have some of those IQ issues, should definitely have somebody there that looks after their interests for them, because they're generally not able to do it for themselves. I totally agree. Disney reads, I say he's credible, but we don't know until the day that he can be called to the stand. Right, absolutely. Talking about the truck driver, right. My typing is crap. Okay. Andy Wigg and Night Rider answered that wrong, because she said November 2005, right? Wasn't it in March of 2006? I'm not sure what that was in reference to. Okay. If you understand what the state of Wisconsin stands to lose if Brendan and or Stephen get out, it becomes very feasible to believe why the agents of this would stoop to every level of corruption. Yeah, exactly. I call it, this is the way I like to refer to it: in for a penny, in for a pound. Right? They've already thrown in the penny, and now it's all getting questioned and whatever, and now they're in for the pound. So that's the way I've always referred to it. Night Rider saying that no, as a matter of fact, that the detectives' read training tells them very specifically not to lie to juveniles or to people with limitations. Absolutely. Yeah, and that's true. The read technique does have little things like that about juveniles that just get ignored, because the courts are just basically willing to accept that investigators will just interrogate a child like they would an adult. If the courts don't call BS, or if they don't raise the alarm, then who's going to? It's up to the courts. And so that's the kind of problem we're having at the moment, I think. So I believe the truck driver, yeah, Hamilton has no idea. He probably has no understanding of the working class people and no way of common ground, and thinks no one innocent confesses. Yeah, I believe you're probably right. Kratz has become a media seeker, kind of making money off of the Averys. Yeah, he certainly is, taking advantage of the whole situation and crying foul at the same time, which I think is interesting. Not to mention the exposure that the cabal could get. I'm talking about powerful people in the club, right? It's part of a big enough. Yeah, it's certainly there's certainly some people there in power that have a little bit of a niche, and it certainly looks like it's becoming a problem, or became a problem. Anyway, yes, Kratz is a media whore. Yeah, he even did Access Hollywood. They asked Brendan what body parts he saw in the fire, and then he guesses, right? Well, actually spits back pretty much virtually the same body parts that were suggested to him. That friend of TH's in the first episode who said that it doesn't matter if they have the right guys, that TH is still gone. That is the mentality that allows wrongful convictions in the first place. Absolutely. I mean, I understood how that guy felt, but I was just sitting there going, dude, really? I mean, it should matter. It should matter if they got it wrong, because if they got it wrong, then they got it wrong for Teresa. But I did notice that, and I just kind of thought, yeah, I get it though. These people are in pain. They lost Teresa, so the judge was asking about the bullet that supposedly killed Teresa, found in March. Knight Rider answered that the shell casings were found in November, as they were. Not sure if that... Oh, okay, yeah. Right. Yeah, and the shell casings were found in November. That's true. Marissa, try to put yourself in the place of the loved one. I can understand why TH friend said that. Yeah, like as I said, I can understand, but at the same time, it's not good thinking. Appeals judge kept saying Barb let BD be interviewed like she agreed, and that's not true. Yeah, the judge kept saying that, but it's not true. Weren't they denied access to the appointed lawyer based on the home value? I think there was something like that, and only if she did not let them question BD. Well, the other problem is that while he was on March 1st, while he was being interviewed, she was in court. She was in divorce court. She couldn't be there. Their claims that she declined to be there are laughable, ridiculous, completely laughable. I'm in the UK. What I don't get with any confession is there's no physical evidence to back it up. That must be a red flag, surely. The fact that there's no DNA evidence that Brendan was, part of this, that he was, that there's no actual real evidence to tie Brendan to any of this. Literally, the only thing they have is this confession, which was quite clearly force-fed to him, and which he eventually just regurgitated all the little bits that were fed to him in a way that they could use it against him. Yeah, so it's supposed to be, that's exactly why they're supposed to hold back some info. Only the killer would know. Right, exactly. And if they had allowed Brendan to say that she was shot in the head, that would have been the type of thing that, well, if they had allowed, if in fact Brendan, knew, and they had allowed him to say that, they wouldn't be dealing with a lot of this mess that they're dealing with now. But because they took the shortcut and just fed it to him, they put themselves in this position. And I know they want to cry foul, but the problem is that we all want to cry foul with their conduct in this case. So that's where we're at. I just started the 10th episode, and I'm already so mad. The DAs and the courts are all working together against these two men. Yeah, it's definitely sad. I'm in Canada, and if I walked into a police station and admitted to a murder, they would release me until they could find evidence to support my claim. Right? Isn't it your right to not answer questions from cops? I do not believe Brendan nor his mother had a grasp of their rights. Absolutely. Absolutely, Brendan did not. And Brendan did not understand his Miranda rights and that sort of stuff. Absolutely. Thank you for the clarification. Yes, I was confused by the judge's questions and Knight Rider's answer. That explains it. My typing getting worse. If the cops want to question you in relation to a crime, never ever talk to them. You know, yeah, it almost seems that that's true. You know, and some people, you know, would obviously say that they want to be or would reason that they want to be helpful and help out, and would want to try to, you know, help the cops. But you gotta be mindful that the cops are desperate to pin the crime on somebody, because they know that people are going to be looking for the crime to be solved, and sometimes they don't care if they get the right person, as long as they're able to shoehorn somebody into it for the public to see that there was some kind of result. Those are some of the disturbing things that happen in our justice system that really probably need to be addressed. Okay. I don't answer questions. Obviously, Scott obviously hates Steve after the trial. He said Steve being in jail was the best outcome. He can't be trusted. He was trying to sell the rifle of it wasn't trying to sell a rifle of Steve's. He was trying to sell a rifle that belonged to one of the Dassey boys. It has shocked me since original MAM that Stephen's family was so willing to work with the police and talk to all, knowing how easy a wrongful conviction is. Yeah, no problem. Personally, I think it was her trying to remind the judges that the police already had those shell casings long before they coerced Brendan into saying she was shot. Right. And that's the whole reason they were trying to say that she was shot in the garage, because that's where they found casings, right? They're just trying to make things... But problem is, they were shooting critters on that property all the time. Gophers and rabbits and things like that. I mean, they were shooting stuff like that. And I mean, so shells around that property are not shocking in any way, shape, or form. They're not out of place. They're not... It's just not incriminating to me. Considering, like I said, the number of varmints that get shot around there. Doesn't matter if you want to help, do not talk to the cops. If you value your rights and your freedom, search the video by a lawyer called Don't Talk to the Police. So I'm not doubting you on that, Sandra B. I'm just saying, yeah, some people might reason that way, but it does look like it's better off to allow your lawyer to do your talking for you. After watching Beatty's confession, it makes me want to warn my kids about cops questioning them as much as warning them about sexual predators. This sickens me, but unfortunately it's true. You know, that's, you know, an interesting parallel, or an interesting statement, really. But definitely, yeah, kids right now, because the courts don't seem to want to care or uphold the whole special care deal from the Supreme Court. Yeah, it probably is the best way to tell our kids, do not talk to police officers. You wait for mommy or daddy, or or a lawyer that we hire for you, or something like that. So yeah, I think that might be the best way to do it, considering just because the courts are not doing their job. Sandra B, good to see you. And Sandra here. You've been standing up for Stephen ever since 1985. Yeah, good old Dave. Why didn't Buting name Hillegas as a suspect in the trial, as surely as the ex-boyfriend they could have shown motive? Well, they couldn't show motive for Ryan Hillegas, and it wasn't until Zellner and her investigators were looking through everything and did some interviews, and they found out that Teresa and Ryan did have some kind of physical, possibly altercations, or at least some kind of mental abuse or something that was going on, and that then could create motive. But Dean and Jerry seem to miss this somehow, as they missed several things, it would seem, in this. So unfortunately, unless they are charged, hold on a second. Fortunately, unless they are charged, they have to pay. You have to pay for your lawyer out of pocket for any questioning, and they can run $100 to $500 an hour. Right, that's true. I mean, lawyers are not cheap. I hate to say this, but I'm positive that it's the reason Ryan can justify not talking to anyone about what he knows, because we really shouldn't trust them or an attorney trying to free her client. Perhaps, but this attorney's using the facts, which is something that helps get me on her side. We recently had an event in our lives involving police, and they approached my 13-year-old daughter. Thank God I told her she's not to talk to anyone unless me or my husband were around. And yeah, and that's probably the best way to do it, because like I said, we've learned one thing from following Brendan here, is that the courts are not interested in protecting your child from, coerced confessions, overzealous investigators and prosecutors. The courts have no interest in shielding your child from that sort of stuff. If, it's just, there's too many out there. I've been doing videos about them here on my channel. And you'll see them on my channel pop up as W, capital C, lowercase o, and a capital Y, which stands for wrongful convictions of youth. And I've done 3 or 4 of them now. And, yeah, there's plenty more. In fact, I still have one that I need to do. There's one that I saw recently and bookmarked, but I still haven't gotten around to making the video for it. But there's just on and on and on that this is happening to juveniles in our system, and the system is not very quick to pick it up and like Judge Wagner said, move into the 21st century. So were Dean and Jerry lacking funds for experts at the trials? They didn't have a blood spatter expert. Could they not afford it? As I said, a blood spatter expert would have been a huge help. It's unfortunate they didn't get one, and I do believe the finances basically ran short at one point. But yeah, so just remember, the state has unlimited resources that they can throw at you. Steven only had $240,000. Although cooperation is great, you can't assume guilt just because someone doesn't want to answer questions. The whole point is he needs to answer questions because Zellner wants to remove him from her suspect list. And that's what I've been saying this whole time. So it's strictly an interest in Zellner wanting to remove him from her suspect list. So it's up to him whether or not he goes to talk to her. Beyond that, that's what it is what it is. So the police and prosecutors are interested in conviction, not the truth. Yeah, they truly are very much interested in convictions, possibly even more than the truth. I wondered the same, Andy. They didn't do their job, and if they believed S.A. was innocent, they should have fought for him and not cared about their check. Right? Why did Wisconsin DOJ withhold the Cuss Road information? It is referred to multiple times in Queso. Didn't they leave Ertl to go off to Cuss Road a few times? They actually had him over by the western, over kind of by Cuss Road, but still on the Avery property where it was like an area of trees or whatever, and they had him digging up what ended up being basically just an old decaying tree. It's like a tree that had died, and it was decaying and whatever, and so they had him digging that up, and it was kind of funny because he actually kind of knew what it was almost immediately, but had to spend half a day digging the damn thing up, and it was I don't know, kind of funny. Sad part is we tell kids that they can trust cops if they are in danger. This really bothers me. I agree. It is. It's a dilemma, right? But yeah, I feel you on that, Shweezy. You tell your kids they can trust cops? No thanks. Yeah, well, sometimes, yeah, anyways. To each their own. Even if he was 100% innocent, he shouldn't talk to her or the police without an attorney. Wrongful convictions also happen when someone is trying to clear their name from from a suspect list. So, and we all know that Ryan has hired an attorney. So Ryan's hired an attorney. It's up to him whether or not he speaks to Zellner. If he does, great. If he doesn't, oh well. And yeah, so I guess, I don't know. That's it, right? I don't know. It's strictly up to Ryan at this point. So what is the ratio of high court judges that are ex-prosecutors rather than... Oh, I don't know. But, good question, I think. I was surprised to hear that Ryan had moved into TH's place. Oh, yeah. I know. Isn't that interesting? Yeah. He moved into her place after she had, died. I mean, and, it's just like... And he had been coming there a lot. There was some account... where she had told somebody that it bothered her that he was coming there, and that type of thing, and yeah, so yes, you would think that Teresa's place would be a crime scene. Why was Ryan allowed to stay there? Yeah, well, why was he allowed on the property? Why a lot of things, right? Tell your kids to never trust the cops. How long has this been going? 56 minutes, huh? All right. So, yeah, I fully think Colburn found the RAV4. Some of you may know my buddy Johnny Jack Smith, or you may see him on YouTube here as Ripper. But he did a video back in the day that really took the audio of that Colburn call, and he enhanced it the best he could. And they just recently, because it had gotten deactivated because Netflix made a copyright claim against it, or whatever. But it recently got reactivated, and I would suggest everybody to go listen to it. But when you hear him like talking to the dispatcher, and the dispatcher comes back saying, "Hey," it comes back to Teresa Hallbach, you immediately hear somebody in the background say, "The car's here." And I mean, that to me is a very damning thing, and has always had me think that Colburn's a dirty dog. Yeah, car's here, right? Oh, so many things in this. I mean, that were just very interesting. I mean, showing all the ways. I mean, talking about how the dogs were going along a certain path, when they were tracking, Teresa and stuff like that, and it's just all quite amazing. And then the blinker stuff, like I said, that's pretty damning, because number one, Ryan's lying about it, but then number two, now we have Calumet County has Mike Hallbach desperately searching through all of his old computers looking for evidence of that damage. And just so many things that are just so strange and everything. Why did Cornely go back and forth to the property to use the washing machine? Now there's a blood was taken from the bathroom. Cornely could have suppose that's a possibility. Taillight is dodgy, as well as the Ryan said she made the claim, right? Parking lot front driver's side. Yes, that's true. It's the front. It's actually a blinker too. It's actually the directional light as well, but it's on the front driver's side. Exactly. In the pretrial hearing, Ryan said he didn't let Ellie know that he was the ex. Yeah, I know, right? That was another interesting bit. I think that Ryan broke it when they moved the RAV4. Exactly. There's a gate just outside the Avery property that they would have had to get through, and if they didn't stop the RAV4 in time and it hit that little gate, like they didn't see it or something, the way the gate is shaped, the little crossbars on it are right where that light would be, and it's interesting. So the blinker didn't break on the pole. It must have likely broke on that other barricaded vehicle. Well, no, like I said, the fence I was just talking about. Some people think it was this particular like gate that was shaped. It's shaped like a triangle, where it's the base of the triangle is over here, and it has two bars that come together, kind of like this, and it's like a gate that it will swing. They think that the RAV4 hit that gate from where the crossbars on it are, and how the damage happened. The people that the documentary didn't leave out a ton of evidence. Look at the list of Ken Kratz's crap that he says that the documentary left out. The hood latch DNA. You guys all heard about the hood latch DNA today. You heard it from Zellner herself and her experts. The hood latch DNA is laughable. There is no such thing as sweat DNA. I mean, it goes on and on. You know, Stephen wasn't luring, Teresa to the salvage yard. Here's another thing. People say, ask yourself, why would he need to lure her there? Well, maybe if she didn't like him or had some problem with him, or was afraid of him or whatever, but had some kind of issue. That would be the only reason he would need to lure her. Otherwise, you could just call her up and go, hey, yep, got a car, come on over. Right? The only reason he would need to lure her is if there was some kind of negative thing. So, the thing is that's not true. I mean, there's a number of ways where we can show that Teresa was more than happy to go over to Avery Salvage. She had no problem with it. She was perfectly jovial about it. She just had no issues with going there. And any claims to the contrary, or that she was being lured, are just ridiculous. Show me what? How about all that LE left out of the trial? Also surprised that the pelvic bones were found in the Manitowoc County quarry, right? Not the Redont property. Yeah, I thought that was also very interesting. Kratz saying the CD didn't have any evidence. Yeah, I know, absolutely. He's the slimy weasel, man. It amazes me how all the DNA has no mix, especially on the key. Exactly. There's not one piece of evidence, it seems, in this case has a mixture of people's DNA. It's all either, Teresa, or it's Stephen Avery. It's everything's very definitive in black and white. How do you lure someone to a place and the address? Yeah, exactly. Right. From previous history, biggest red flag, only SA DNA on latch, on key. No mix of the blood. Just extremely unlikely. Absolutely. Oh, I'm not sure about this. Okay, so Justin said, right, I keep hearing many months ago about some property line marker pole. Nothing in MAM2, thanks. We were thinking the same thing. Yeah, that's one thing I was a little bit kind of bummed about with MAM2, is that they did not go into the Calumet reopening of the investigation into Teresa Halbach. They really didn't go into that. The only thing they really did was they played the audio. Well, they played a portion of the audio when Bobby Dassey was being interviewed by John Dietering and the other guy from DCI. That was the only thing we really got from the Queso 2.0, the new investigation that Calumet County opened up into the Teresa Halbach, the death of Teresa Halbach. Cuts on the bones were very interesting, absolutely. Kratz is so clever, he thought it was a suicide. Kratz is, Kratz is Kratz. He's a weirdo. He's a strange one. And he's a slimy weasel who has no problem telling a lie. Do you think there will be an exoneration, new trial, Alford plea, or sentences will stand? I think ultimately that they're both going to get out. I think it's not going to be quick. I think it's not going to be, unfortunately, it's just not going to happen super quick. But I think Kathleen's going to keep knocking at the door. I think that Laura and Steve Drizzen are going to keep knocking at the door. And they're just going to keep pounding on that door. And with all the worldwide support, and with, just with everything, that eventually Wisconsin's going to buckle under the weight. And they're going to eventually do what's right. That's my hope. And like I said, it's probably not going to be happening overnight. Even after all this time, spine and ribs are still missing. Exactly. Could Kathleen send sniffer dogs to the location where yeah, well, that's an interesting question, actually. It's the prosecution reaction when the coroner was called. Yeah, right. How can sorry. How can even a press conference how can he even have a press conference, Kratz, at the 7th Circuit? Absolutely. Why Kratz was saying anything at the 7th Circuit Court and speaking to the press or anything at the 7th Circuit Court is just, yeah. It's like, dude, you're disgraced and no longer, you were removed from your job because you were a disgrace. So, back off, right? So, Schimmel made me actually hate him, yeah. Not just dislike him. He got Brendan's hopes up and waited until the last minute like it was right. A cat and mouse game, absolutely. Unfortunately, BD doesn't have many doors left to knock on. Zellner is now best hope for both SA and BD. Oh, I don't know. Steve Drizzen and Laura Nyrider may find some new piece of evidence that will allow them to open the doors back up on it. We'll see. I think they got something. I think they have something in mind. So we'll see. I was at court. They were basically letting anyone and everyone that was there, even remotely involved, get up there and talk. Oh, yeah, that's funny. Does anyone think it was weird that when Sturm called that Wiegert asked, are there any plates on it? Yeah, that is an interesting question. Wouldn't you assume that they're on it? Well, why would he assume that there were not plates on it? Exactly. That's a very good point, Justin. Very good point. Do you think Steve will be able to handle getting out? If it was me, the frustration inside would be so hard to deal with. I agree. But you got to imagine it's kind of by this point that Steven's kind of in a routine and he's somewhat used to it. But yeah, absolutely, he definitely wants out. Schiller is so deep into it he can't retract now, but instead hides behind the hall box. Yeah, exactly. Whenever he gets a question he doesn't like, he hides behind the hall box, and he's just as slimy as Ken Kratz. It gave me goosebumps when the guy told the cop about the RAV4 and the cop was Colburn. Yeah, absolutely. I agree, Justin. I've always wondered what prompted that to be the first thing he asked her. Yeah. Their only chance is newly discovered evidence. They can't argue any evidence because BD was convicted solely on his confession. That's true. Well, we'll see what angle they can go at, but yeah. Whatever it ends up being. I have faith in Brendan's lawyers. He couldn't be in better hands. Yes, there is no other evidence against Brendan, so how can they? I know. And how the court can just say that everything that happened with Kaczynski and all that crap, that its hands are tied, it can't do anything about it. It's like, okay, if our court's hands are tied where they can't do anything about something as egregious as what Len Kaczynski did to Brendan Dassey, then we definitely, as the people, need to get involved so that we can change that, because that's absolutely ridiculous if our judges' hands are tied from preventing the kind of miscarriage of justice that happened with Brendan. Yes, there is no other evidence against Brendan, so how can they? Yeah, I think item KH will break the case. It's male DNA on the plates. That's true. That could be very big. There's so much content. I will have to watch it all again and treat it like I know. It was a lot, but fortunately with me having read all of the filings and everything, so I was able to retain a lot of it pretty well because I'd read the filings and had already, seen all the words, and now I was getting to see all the actions on the screen, and I thought that was just awesome. But it was easy for me to follow along and remember, maybe because I'd already read about all these things, I think. So if Brendan admits guilt, would he get a chance for earlier release? I don't know. I suspect they might. They might rush him. They might try to get him out quickly if he did something like that. I don't know, but I doubt he will because, he's chosen at this point to maintain his innocence, and so I believe he is. Just tuned in, hey everyone, and this ended it up to be a crock question. If there was child pornography in the computer, why wasn't anyone charged for that? Well, that's a question a lot of people have been asking, Ayasha. A lot of people have been asking that question, and some people have been asking the question of, was the content on that computer used as leverage to get Bobby to testify the way he did? That question has also been asked. Thought initially Scotty was being a good boy, but didn't take long to revert back. It was a shocking moment. Yeah. Not for long. Meow meow. Yeah, Len Kaczynski. That was so funny when they were there like talking to him or whatever, and there was one scene where you actually saw his cat in his living room walks by and meows, and I was just like, I was rolling on the ground, just like, oh my god, laughing because of that cat meowing the way it did, and with all the stuff that came out about him recently with the little cat toy that he was looking at his clerk for like 45 minutes and making this little cat toy meow. And just, wow, how disturbing that is. Anyways, I don't think he's guilty, but if it got him out, it might be something he could do. From Queso, was Kaczynski lured away from helping BD by being called to the military service during the same time he was about to be interviewed? I'm not sure about that. Sorry. Anyway, in order to get parole, you usually have to admit guilt and show remorse. So if his appeals fail and he refuses to do that, he could never go free. That's true. In Wisconsin, to get parole, you have to admit guilt. You have to do it. And I'll tell you what, I think that's pretty slimy. That's pretty damn slimy. That is required, that law is on the books that requires that for you to get parole in Wisconsin, because they put it another way. People say, well, you hear Fallon himself, innocent people don't confess. But essentially they make you confess, even if you are innocent, if you ever want to get out of prison. So, that seems to me that they're not interested in truth or justice. They're just interested in making it look like they're perfect, like they're getting it right, and that's just that's by forcing inmates to do that for parole, just kind of like the little cherry on top of the little perfect sundaes or convictions, that they're making, and it's all an illusion. It's an absolute illusion, and it needs to stop. In order to get paroled, you usually have to admit guilt and show remorse. So if appeals fail, he refuses to do it, he could never go free. Whatever happened to the neighbor seeing the white Jeep? I believe that. Yeah, you know, they didn't go over that. They didn't talk about that. That's actually very interesting. Yeah, they should have probably said something about that. But yeah, you're right. I didn't see it. I suppose they were trying to talk about a lot of things. Yeah, I don't know. But I can imagine I guess they really went with these very strong forensic information. So maybe that's why it wasn't there. There's a clip showed Bobby Dassey and Fassbender chatting in court. You think that he was told? Yeah, I've definitely seen the way that they were kind of chummy there outside of the courtroom was a little bit disturbing. Didn't Hallback have a white Jeep? I'm not sure. You have to admit guilt to get parole. That comes from old case law based on the fact a prison is supposed to be a rehabilitation center. Not saying I agree with that law. Once Kathleen examines the car, it will become clearer if it was used to push its way onto the lot. Hope she gets a hit on the license plate and steering wheel. Me too. As Bobby never originally said she walked to Steve's trailer. Absolutely. Brian is clearly saying that Bobby was saying she had left. So let's talk about the people who refused to participate, listed at the end of every episode. I love it. Yeah, that's hey, I'm glad they did that, because now when any one of those people tries to come out in the press, all of us now will be armed and go, hey, wait, it shows your name right here. Are you saying you didn't receive any correspondence from these filmmakers asking you to take part? You know, and so that is very awesome, and kind of takes a. This time they won't be spending the next couple months constantly trying to dig up letters to prove that they, you know, that all these people who are claiming that it was one-sided and they weren't offered the opportunity, so that they can refute those people. By putting all those names up like that and doing it at the end of each episode, I think is going to save them a lot of time and trouble and hassle. So I think that's awesome. I've got the names listed in front of me. Pick one. Ken Kratz. Ali Apperson. I posted them on Twitter. I saw, seems like more than one or two people posted them on Twitter, actually. So, noticed a few of them there. Personally, I wanted to slap the judge, Susie. She is a mouse playing with rats. Yeah. Who is Jesse Miller listed on the not willing to cooperate list? Could be a friend of Teresa's. It's weird that Scott purchased the property that the RAV4 was spotted. Yeah, that is kind of odd. I mean, there's so many odd little coinky dinks. It's just strange. Okay, so he is a friend of Teresa's, like I said. So, in the BD interview from May 13th, there appears to be almost 1 minute of footage cut between. Oh, dude, there's so much footage cut from the BD interrogations. It's ridiculous. Yeah, absolutely. I hate that. Where you just suddenly see the clock jump a couple minutes or 10 minutes or whatever. It's just like, you know, what are they hiding there? Oh, you are so welcome. You are very, very welcome, Rain. So we're reaching the 120-minute mark here, I'm sorry, not 120 minutes, the hour and 20-minute mark. So if there's any other questions, I would encourage people to ask them. Oh, thank you, Shweezy. I would encourage people to ask them, and I'll probably be going live again this weekend, so that as more and more people finish the 10 episodes, that they'll have somewhere to go to talk about it, that type of thing. So I will probably end up going live tomorrow night and maybe Sunday night, just to continue the conversation and talk about all this stuff. I may have already watched it again by that point, just to go and look at all that. I want to watch all those experiments again at this point and all that. So Brennan's attorney making Kratz admit that he has a weak case on the stand was great. Absolutely. I would love to discuss more of the evidence and info with many of you. Unfortunately, too many people seem to just not care about justice. Twitter me anytime. I wish he would have told his story. You'd all love it. It makes me sick in the Dassey interrogation when Wiegert puts his hand on Dassey's knee. Absolutely. I hate it when he touches Brendan. Absolutely disgusts me every time he touches Brendan. Andrew, you just followed me on Twitter. Okay. What time zone are you in? Okay. Have a great night all. Yeah, absolutely. Have a great night, everybody. Like I said, tomorrow night, probably about the same time as tonight. I want to go ahead and probably wait till as late as possible to give as many people the chance to finish watching the documentary, particularly my friend, the Mad Scotsman. Y'all may know him, Mr. Capaldi. He also answers to the Chief Haverer, so you can call him that. He loves it. He absolutely loves it. Trust me. So anyway, so it's been a lot of fun, folks. It's absolutely, it's been, very interesting to see what, Zellner's got, and to see all the, like I said, the visual representations of everything and those experiments, and getting to see all that. I think that is the biggest thing that came out of MAM2 that I am just absolutely ecstatic about. A lot of people out there now, without having to go through and drudge through, thousands and thousands of pages of documents and stuff like that, can sit down and binge watch a show over a weekend and pretty much get the gist of what's wrong with these cases and why they should care. And that is a huge deal for me. Jan Sutherland saying the Mad Scotsman's a minute from her. Oh, you're welcome, Allie. It's been fun. And like I said, I'm going to probably do it tomorrow and Sunday night. So you guys can all feel free to tune in tomorrow night about the same time. And then on Sunday night about the same time. I'm having a heck of a lot of fun talking to everybody about this stuff. I'm so just charged up and everything about MAM2. It was absolutely brilliant. So much good information there, and getting to see it with our eyes, like I said, is the really big deal for me. So good night, everybody. Just wanted to point out that I'm wearing my international support shirt here. This is something Mr. Mark Hodnott gave to me, and I've been a little bit slacking, I gotta say. But eventually, on this wall behind me, you're gonna start seeing the symbols of other international support. For instance, Dutch, Irish, and others that are going to be appearing there soon. I'm sorry that I've been a little bit, busy and slacking on getting those things, but wanted to point it out because I'm very, very proud of this shirt particularly that was given to me by Mark Hodnott, and some of you may know Mark. He's a very strong supporter of Stephen and Brendan. So wanted to just point that out. So we'll see you guys tomorrow night, and if you haven't already, please hit subscribe.